Hello, greetings, everyone. I don't even know what today's date is, but it is the wee hours of the morning. It's about 1:21 a.m. I'm doing this live, not necessarily whether if anyone is watching, but I have such important messages that I want to share, as I am as transparent as I could ever be and keeping it real like I always do. I've been purging and purging and purging all day and transmuting, and I just feel like I just got home and I just feel like I just need to talk and to really give out the message that I want to give. Why wait for the book to come out? Because every time I think about all the things that occur with humanity, how much things that happen, and what I promised God that I would come back here to help everybody to get out of the funk. And so one of the main themes that seems to show up so much is about relationships. And the last video I did, I spoke about how Pluto went direct on Thursday. I'm not an astrologist, but I've been guided by Spirit that it's important for us to go deeper into understanding everything to do with what it means for us to come back to ourselves, whether it's through religion, or I would prefer to say whether it's through, scriptures, or whether it's through the planets, or whether it's through what someone else might say, because we are bringing all the pieces together. We're bringing all the pieces together, and every time something occurs or something happens, this is about how do we bring ourselves back together? How do we bring ourselves back together? And so even in the midst of all of this crying that I've been doing all day, I'm the one that analyzes things. It's in my nature. This is how I've been created. This is me. I analyze it because that's why it's being put into this book. And now Spirit just pulled me at this strange hour to talk about this, because when I look at every person I come into contact with, there is so much emotional baggage. There's so much emotional pain that others are walking around with, and they're not even understanding what it means for them and what it means for shifting, so that we can create ourselves to having healthier relationships, you see. And so one of the things that I realize is that we are mirrors of each other, all of us, especially the ones that are closest to us, whether it's our children, our divine counterparts, whether it's in a male or female form, it doesn't matter, for those who understand that. And when we think about what shows up from each person for us to heal from, a lot of times we feel that, we just let it go by and we don't say anything. Or you do say something and then it repeats itself and then we just let it go. And so this is the time where, for me, I always seem to go through a lot of these clearing and stuff, when the full moon is coming in, but I always seem to get the effects of it ahead of time. So even though the full moon is on October 5th, it doesn't matter. I start to experience and start to feel things ahead of time. I am extremely empathic, and I'm also extremely intuitive with things. And so I can sense and I feel everything. It's like I have the antennas up all over the place. And so when I realized, just grocery shopping, and I saw 2 messages from Spirit that said magic and mad, because everything that I've suppressed for so many centuries, at some point when we're not releasing some of the stuff we carry emotionally, we start to walk around with it like baggage. And so it can turn into either at a place where you might say something and you might not say something. And then it turns to rage, because I got so angry today, even at my children, because my son just said one little thing, and I looked at it as how, yes, that's right. I looked at it as how, whatever it is and how I was feeling, because I wasn't honoring myself enough. So everything felt compounded for me when it comes to all the people who are an extension of me, which is a form of relationship. And so when you say relationship, it's not just relationship as far as being in love and the romantic relationship. It's the relationship we have with ourselves and others, who you work with, who you live with, whatever the case may be. And so one of the things that I realized is that when we look at the fact that we are keeping certain things inside and we're looking at the mirror, then some teachers out there are saying, well, work on yourself, and whatever that other person is mirroring, it's as if it's okay because, it's a projection. But guess what? One of the things that was shown to me so many times, that the Holy Spirit showed me, is that we must complete that circle. We must complete the circle. So in other words, we take responsibility for our thoughts and our emotions. But guess what? The other person to whom you are feeling affected from, they too have to take a responsibility too, as for themselves. And therefore, it's so important for you to express to someone how you feel, especially if you feel hurt or if you feel offended. It could be as small as it could ever be, because whatever shows up from within you, that's reflecting from that person is still mirroring something back to themselves through you. And so what happens is that what's taught is that, okay, if the person mirrors something to you, to how and what you're feeling affected by, that you may say something and then it goes by and then it repeats itself again, maybe a month or so later. And then something else piles up on top of it. And then it just keeps accumulating and accumulating and accumulating. And then as it accumulating, this is what causes distress on others. And you start to create the illnesses of the body, mind, and soul. And so when we do not allow ourselves to keep being in that true expression, because this is a part of being authentic, living authentic and being authentic. And so even when we're expressing ourselves to someone, to how we're feeling, that expression does not have to necessarily come out in anger, but it's about how you are placing yourself in that person's shoes, meaning that you're connecting to that person, to how you feel, and also going into their space, into how they're feeling. And this is what brings things into balance, because we're in the Libra season, and Libra is about coming into balance. How do we bring our relationships into balance? How do we bring ourselves into that space of having healthier relationships with ourselves and with others? And the key thing is to be authentic and to bring everything to that complete circle, that complete circle. And that means that you're not just saying, I see what this person is showing me about myself and how they make me feel. But then, okay, I'll just leave it at that. And that's the reason why a lot of divine feminines, sometimes they feel resentful, because they feel that their divine counterpart is not doing the work and they're not going through the same experiences as we have. And I know each person's circumstances and experiences are different. It's not everyone is it's all the same. But the universal thing is that too many times we're taught to keep our emotions in. We're not to cry. And I allowed myself to cry out in public. I cried everywhere. I've been crying all day. I've been crying from this morning all back till I can't count how many hours now. So I laugh and I hurt too. And I feel. And I always tell others, when you're feeling something, allow yourself to go down deep and bring yourself up again. And you can go in the middle and you can go down back again. And it's natural to cry and it's natural to feel. And it's so important to honor your feelings. There's no special time to stop feeling. If you feel something, say something. Because if you keep carrying these feelings and you're not telling each other how you feel, and understanding that when you're telling each other how you feel, that you're still placing yourself in that person's position to how they're feeling and what is projecting from one person to the next. And so many people are still walking around with so much mask on. And you see, the earth is ascended. And these frequencies, whether you understand this or not, it's still happening. And I say, if you don't understand what I'm saying, come back to it again. Come back to this video again in another day or so, or 2 weeks or a month from now. And I say that the frequencies are getting stronger and stronger and higher. And what it's doing is that the veil is getting thinner. And as the veil gets thinner, we are all starting to feel each other's feelings and thoughts and emotions. And one of the most important bodies that we're healing the most and the highest and the strongest is our emotional bodies. If we are not allowing ourselves to become as healthy as we can with our emotional bodies, this is what continues with these patterns and behaviors of people that attack one another because they're not being authentic. They're not living authentically. There is so much deceptive thoughts and ideas that are constantly carried out that and it keeps bottling up and not honoring each other with our feelings and thoughts and what it means for another person. Because you see, when you leave out of your body, what you call die or transition, you get to, you review your entire life. You review your entire life of how you've lived from this lifetime and other lifetimes. We have reincarnated so many times on the planet, and each time that we have continued to reincarnate, we have carried these baggage, and this is why every person that shows up in our reality, you wonder why it repeats itself, because we have come out of our bodies and take all these feelings with us and then reincarnate in another body again, and here we go again. That is how much baggage we have been carrying. And everyone is walking around like zombies, looking to other people for the answers and not allowing themselves to receive the answers from within and to understand what's really happening on the planet. It's not just regular stuff that's happening. And this is why everything just keeps cycling into a loop. And often that both men and women, regardless of what frequency you're carrying as masculine and feminine, you go into new relationships again, meet new people, more people, and you're carrying the same thought patterns, beliefs, and things as far as feelings. And then you project it into the new relationship, and that person has their own baggage, and then it just continues. So at what point do you ask yourself, does something change? Because it has to start from within you, and that means that you start honoring your feelings. You start looking at what has been affecting you, especially from childhood, and what is that relationship? What has that relationship been like with your parents who's raised you? What is it that you may turn to in terms of when you are feeling something inside and you're not expressing it? The average human being, what they do is they turn to something else to suppress it, whether it's some type of addiction. And that addiction could be work addiction. It could be drug addiction. It could be food addiction. It could be any type of addiction. That's what happens. And so it continues on again. And then they go into more unhealthy relationships. Then they produce children out of those relationships. And then it becomes more dysfunctional. Then you have the cultural things that come into play. Then you have the religious structure that comes into play, with more dogma and more circumstances, and then there's more bearing of feelings. And people still continuing in unhealthy relationships. And so that's why I had to speak tonight. I had to speak about what I've been going through and the role that I play for humanity, and how much more I had to honor myself, because one of the key things I had to get for myself is how much more I'm to honor myself. And that includes not about just speaking up, because I do speak up. That's the one thing, anybody who really, really knows me, I speak my voice. I say what I have to say, and I give just none to give away. None to give away as far as fucks or what anybody says, because I'm honoring myself. But sometimes we go even deeper. And so that's why we descended into what some written words have said, going to hell. And so we descend into hell. We're descending into Pluto, descending into the parts of ourselves that is showing up, which is the shadow. We're not getting rid of it. We're not even transmuting. We're just looking at it and just accepting the parts of ourselves that we never want to look at, that reflects back from that other person. So how do we resolve this? How do we bring ourselves to that place where we're not just healing, but being able to look at it and to move through it, and then where it takes us to the next stage of the new relationship that you have with yourself, that can continue with someone else, that will help you and help them and complete that circle, because you are living and being authentic with your feelings and your thoughts. So you don't carry on more emotional baggage and calling each other names and all kinds of things because of how you feel. So it doesn't project to the next person. So that way, if and when the time comes, if you decide to leave out of your body, that you don't carry it again. And we continue these patterns that have been going on for centuries within families, and generational curses is what we call it, the ancestral baggage and curses and stuff. I mean, there's so much layers of things that go so deep. There's so much things that affects the human body, from the sexual aspect, the emotional aspect, the triggers, the abuse. All of these things is what's so important for one to understand. And we take responsibility for how we feel, but also to say something to the other person or persons to what they are doing, to what facilitates to how you feel. And then once it's identified, and then you allow that person to say, well, that's not, or that is, so that way they express themselves, and this is how you clear that energy, and then you can move to the next stage of your life. And that's how you complete the circle. So if you go one way with something, don't forget to come back into the other aspect of what's reflecting from that person. I know for some it's like, what are you talking about? Every single soul, everyone that you're in contact with, whether it's directly or indirectly, is a mirror of you. It's a mirror of you. And the mirror can go as deep as it goes, and it can go as far as high as it goes, and even as far as touching the surface. So it's not even just looking at the physical mirror, but it's also what's reflecting energetically. It's an energy. It's an energy. And it can't be ignored any longer. And so you ask yourself, how can I bring myself to greater peace? By being honest with myself and honest with others. Because you see, what I've been doing is that I don't like arguing. I don't like fights. I don't like fussing. So I just kind of just let it pass. But I was like, oh, all right. I said what I had to say. I cussed about whatever. And then I like to keep the peace because I like to live in peace. But sometimes being in peace doesn't necessarily mean that it's okay to keep accepting somebody else's behavior or whatever they may do or say, and then sweep it under the rug and push it to the side. You see? Because that's when it becomes more unhealthy. That's when it becomes more unhealthy. And so the importance is, once again, is how can we bring ourselves together? How can we bring ourselves together with a greater healing by honoring ourselves, by dealing with our emotions and feelings? I always speak and teach that the feelings is the strongest language of the soul. And as we continue to shift more and more on the planet, guess what? We're going to keep feeling more and more of how someone else is feeling. And you're going to be wondering, how come I'm feeling what that person's feeling? I'm able to feel hundreds of people in one room. I can feel the vibration. And this is what's happening with everyone, is that you're going to start to keep feeling everything coming from someone. So what are you going to do? You can't run from it because it's like you're running from yourself and you can't hide. If you don't resolve yourself through others by honoring your feelings and being honest with that person, whoever, whether it's a coworker, a boss, a lover, a spouse, whoever it is, speak your thoughts and your feelings and resolve it, because they're showing you something and they're showing up in your life as a gift. They're showing up in your life as a gift for you and for them, because you become not only the student, but the teacher. You see, it goes both ways. They're helping you to heal and to become even greater of yourself. Hey, Erica. Thank you, everyone, for being here with me in the wee hours of the morning, as I am just speaking from my heart and from my soul. I always have a love of others. And every time I feel that I can pull away from this, I can't, because I keep remembering the promise that I made to God that I would come back here to help everybody to get out of the funk. And I just ask you to just be honest with yourselves. Even if you think you might be hurting someone, you're hurting yourself and you're hurting everyone. That's what it does when you're not living authentically. And all it does is it causes more pain, and then it goes deeper. And then everybody just walks around in all this pain. And that's why I love children, because they are so authentic. When they cry, let them cry. If they're in laughter, let them laugh, because they're being real with themselves. And it's too much that, and too often that adults, when they get older, they just don't want to speak the truth and to honor their feelings, and the judgments just start to come out right away. And people start to categorize others and name calling and name blaming and ignoring, and they continue on that cycle. And so this is about how we are honoring ourselves and honoring others, and understanding that we all have similarities and differences. So even if they're behaving like an asshole, or she's acting like a bitch, or this one is acting like a motherfucker, there's something that has brought them to that place from somewhere. And that something reflects from them, from someone else to someone else, and vice versa. So even if you do have to call someone a name, go right ahead. If it is what it is. And then look at it from the other perspective also, as to where is it coming from and where did it start from? You see, because if we don't get to the root of our thoughts, it's always a root cause. It starts from somewhere. And if we don't get to the root of it, then it's going to continue. And it doesn't stop. And then it becomes unhealthy. You see, that's what happens. And so as we keep experiencing more and more things that are occurring in our lives, it's going to get stronger and stronger. And so we can't run and we can't hide. This is about how much we are connecting to each other through our hearts. It doesn't matter whether you live near or far. We're all connected and we're all one. We're all one. This is about how we're looking out for our highest and best for ourselves and for others, and how it all interconnects and how it intertwines. If you don't have that full expression of love for yourself and being authentic and living authentically, how can you possibly have a healthy relationship with anyone else? You can't. So if you feel something is going against you, then allow yourself to feel through it and don't ignore it. Don't ignore it. If you have to talk to the person, talk. If you can't, write it out. If you can't write it out, scream, shout, yell. Feel through the anger and the pain and all of it. I had to do that today. And then I moved forward, and then I cried again. And then I moved forward, and then I cried again. And then I stepped back. And then I kept reviewing and reviewing. And I started having all these memories of all the relationships I've had. I had a dream this morning that I was on a ship, and I was on the ship with all these people I didn't know, and all these men I didn't know. You see, and I realized, oh my God, I was reviewing in my sleep state all and everyone that I've had a relationship with. You see, and the fighting and all that stuff. This is what we're doing. We're all going through a life review. That's one of the things that was shown to me initially from 2014 when I started taking notes of everything that was happening with myself and everyone around me and the entire world. You see, we're all going through a life review, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. When you leave out of your body completely, what you call death, it's a transition. And that transition is where we are required. It's a requirement. It's a part of the soul's journey to analyze and to review itself to what it has experienced. And it's not just to say what you have learned from it, but it's like, who were you at that time? Who are you? Who are you being in respect to what you're experiencing? And so we analyze it, and then we say, okay, we're going to come back down here again. and I want to switch places with this other person. I want to switch places and see that person as God too, you know? Because that's what we are. We are the aspects, we're the micro aspects of God. And we chose to experience this. And you know, I'll never forget that book by Neil Donald, The Little Soul and the Sun. And they were descending. The two souls were going to descend. And one soul said to the other one, please remember me. Please don't forget me, and remember me, and remember that I love you. Remember that I love you, and I'm going to be as horrible as I could ever be. But just remember that I love you, and don't forget me. Because we cause ourselves to forget who we are so we can remember who we are. Some of us are still sleeping. Some of us are in a deep sleep. A deep sleep, and I'm talking about the unconscious. And there's two different aspects of this unconscious. There's an unconscious thinking where some are walking around like Walking Dead. They're not even trying to connect to someone and to connect to someone else's feelings or anything. You know, they're just oblivious. And then there's an unconsciousness that's going on in terms of what's going on with the planet and waking up to what this true reality is. It's not just about your physical body. It's an energy. We're all energy and frequency. Everything that connects us to the divine. The last video that I did, I spoke about what's important is remembering and connecting to the divine, and connecting to the divine to know and to receive the messages and to pay attention to all of that, and staying within your power and not giving your power away. Not giving your power away to others and to leaders and all of that, because that is what has been the downfall and already for the world. And so the time is up for all of that. And so part of this is not only just honoring the feelings of others, but coming into your power. And coming into your power means that you're honoring your feelings, and you're not just going to let anybody walk and step all over you. And that even if that person is doing that, is to understand where is it coming from, but still at the same time, you're honoring yourself. You're bringing all of it together as one, and it's not just pointing fingers and blaming, but being able to sit down, stand up, whatever you do, and look at everything and all things from your perspective and that person's perspective and the next person's perspective. So I just wanted to share. I wanted to share these messages with everyone. And I pray and I'm thankful that you receive this message in love, with love, and in love. And that the key thing, once again, is to honor your feelings and to honor each other. Speak your truth and live in truth. Align with your thoughts and feelings with the action. It's so important, because when we continue to live in lies, all that's going to happen is it's going to cause more pain, and it's going to keep falling apart. The frequencies are not supporting that anymore, to live a life of lies and deception and not speaking truth and not honoring yourself, leaving out of relationships that are not healthy, ignoring the signs to others who may need your help, because no matter what, it's still reflecting. Of course, help yourself first and then help others. No matter what, there's always something to complete for that circle, and not just have it one way. That's the key thing. So I send you so much peace and love on this early Saturday morning. And just don't forget to love. And speak out and be in that love for yourself and for others, so that the next person also does the same. That's how it works. That's what changes the world. So that's what I wanted to say. I send you so much love and peace. Peace be unto each and every one of you. Namaste.